So sometimes I pick a side before I ever finish writing out my issue. Other times I don't know, I pick a side pretty soon as well. When should I actually pick a side in level two?
Well, after we get to judicial address 4, or when we get there, we get the chart for refining the refutation that helps us to re-examine what we've chosen for the other side's reasons and what we think about them. Um, and then in JA5, we use that same chart, the same questions to examine our own reasons and whether we've missed anything. So it's a good idea to go through all that process that we find in arrangement before we pick a side, because this is helping us to make sure that we didn't miss anything, because there could be something crucial that we missed that would cause us not to go with the side we were inclined to favor when we first heard the question.
Thank you for using that word inclined. So in level one, right, we will do all of our invention, sort, which is our first arrangement lesson,
Mhm.
choose a side, develop all the other arrangement lessons.
Yep.
But I'm hearing in level two, it's not going to quite flow that way. So you're going to do all of your invention. There's
And
still, right, there's still a sorting.
yes. Yes. And this is a little bit like the logic lessons that we get in level 3 and some of the other things that we get in arrangement, where we're just, it's sort of an overlap between invention and arrangement. We're checking our things. Sorting is an overlap between invention and arrangement, because we hope we sleep on it first, and then we go back and say, well, what did this reason mean? And what did I meant when I wrote this? And is it the same as this other thing? And what am I thinking? What do I see now that I didn't write in the Annie, but that goes with these two things? So that's a little overlap between invention and arrangement. And then this refutation is too, because it's looking back at all the invention and asking, did I miss anything?
Okay. And then I choose a side.
Yes. I had a student ask me when we were doing this once, he said, well, can I wait? Can I choose a side later after I do this? And that was I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Yes, that's what we ought to do. Let's finish thinking before we pick a side.
Yeah, right.
And like April says, I quote you on this all the time, April, that the Lost Tools teaches us how to listen. And this is especially the lesson that does that. And so we want to finish listening before we make a decision.
So is there a specific lesson in level two where it says, okay, now we're going to work on picking side? Like, I don't understand when you say it like that.
I'm not sure that there's ever a place where it says now pick a side.
Yeah.
But I think that what we need to do with our students is to encourage them always, always, always to wait. Because, and I say this in level 1 a lot, we want to think before we decide. We don't want to decide and then think about it.
Yeah.
We need to finish all of the thinking parts before we decide.
I think it's just a logical way to do it.
Right.
That's what we came to the conclusion, after teaching and students helping us think, more clearly as well. That just made sense because the thinking isn't finished. You need this chart, you need the refutation, refining.
Right.
So where does that one fall?
Arrangement and finding the refutation is arrangement and judicial address 4, but then the same chart is given to use with your own thinking in 5. Day 5, because when we learn these new tools of thinking, it's easier to examine somebody else's arguments and say he did that wrong, and instead of looking at our own thinking and saying where am I making mistakes in my own thinking. So we practice on other people's arguments, and then in J5 we practice on our own arguments, and that's where we're looking at the case and saying, do I really have good reasons here? Did I miss anything? And if we might find something that we missed that would cause us to change sides.
Right.
And yeah. I think we take a baby step in level 1. I realized this in the past year. Because we have the refutation, we don't ask students in level 1 to, respond directly to the other side, which is a little bit different in level 2. They're required to actually listen to each other's arguments or the two different arguments. But they do a little piece of inventing when they have to invalidate that argument. And I think we take a baby step in level 1. I realized this in the past year. Because we have the refutation, we don't ask students in level 1 to, respond directly to the other side, which is a little bit different in level 2. They're required to actually listen to each other's arguments or the two different arguments. But they do a little piece of inventing when they have to invalidate that argument in
Yes.
reputation, because I used to really struggle with, well, we're
Yeah.
inventing here. Do they have the tools they need? What do I need to provide? And I realized they do have the tools because they've been working with thinking and contemplating and common topics this entire time. So they can work through this chart. And they had a little baby step when they, like I said, because they have to find an inadequacy in level 1. So that was just like a one-line baby step. We trusted them to think about that inadequacy and come up. It may come from their Annie, it may not. And so this is an expansion of that practice, that tool.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and it's a good point that at all of the arrangement lessons, there is some invention that's happening, right? Like I'm crafting an exordium. I'm crafting an amplification. So there's some invention that happens in those places as well. Yeah.
Yes.